Hey ho, welcome to Life Lessons from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we are continuing with the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Our topic is Krishna defeats Kalyavana, blesses Mucakunda, and flees from Jarasandha. So a most wonderful pastime where Krishna, the Supreme Lord of all that be, he also has a pastime of running away, scared, fleeing the battlefield, or so. That's how it appeared to Jarasandha. And so that is our wonderful topic. We'll explore the topic and we'll also seek to take some lessons as well, some instructions. Before doing so, we'll chant some prayers of invocation to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 2. Shri Sutta Uvacha Yam Pravarjantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Pureti Tanmaya Yataya Taravo Bhenudus Tam Sarva Bhutam Hridayam Muninam Anantosmi. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage, Sukadeva Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread, or the ceremonies observed by the higher caste, his father Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'O my son!' Indeed, only the trees, which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation, echoed in response to the aggrieved father." Text 3 of the second chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Yasvanubhavam akila shruti sharamekam adyatmadipam atitir satram tamondam samsarinam karunaya purana guhyam tam vyasa sunum upayami gurum maninam. Let me offer my respectful obeisances to him, Sukha, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who, out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. Wonderful. Okay, so some of our friends are here, present for this discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. Wonderful. Thank you for joining. I need to just disappear for a second. I'll be back. Forgive me for this. I've never done this before, but I do need to disappear just momentarily. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. A little multitasking there while giving Bhagavatam class, cooking at the same time. All right, so Kirtida is with us from Norway. Welcome, Kirtida. Thank you for joining us. We have Shama Manjari joining us from South Africa. Shama Manjari says, Hare Krishna, dearest Sri Prahlada Prabhuji, and all dear devotees. Thank you, Shama Manjari, for joining us. Nice emojis there. Joni is with us from Australia, somewhere in Australia, Moolumbar or Sydney. Joni moves between two places. Joan says, Hari Bol. Thank you for being here, Joan. And there's Ananda Kirtan as well. Ananda Kirtan says, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being with us. Ananda Kirtan Ji. Janavamata joining from, I should have been showing your comments. Janavamata joining us from Dunedin in the South Island of New Zealand says, Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Thank you all for being here. So I think we can begin our discussion. It is on Krishna's defeating Kalyavana, blessing Mucakunda, and fleeing from the battlefield, fleeing from Jarasandha. So I welcome you all to Life Lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam, where each week, twice a week, we discuss a section of the Bhagavatam and consider lessons to apply in life. Today's topic we have announced already, and before we start, I just thought to share with you some reflection. People often ask me, "Who are you? Where are you from?" That's a common question that people ask when you meet them for the first time. And these are simple questions in one way. In another way, they're very complex, aren't they? Philosophically, in the Hare Krishna movement in particular, we emphasize these questions. Who am I? That's the topic of most Sunday feast lectures or public lectures. Where have I come from? These are profound spiritual questions, but in conventional terms, when we're asked these questions. In today's time, it can be actually quite complicated as well. I'm from a lot of places. I was born in Wellington. I spent time in Auckland. My parents live in Brisbane. I grew up in Jugovadan, Australia. Lived for 10 years in Sydney. I'm from Poland. I'm from Mayapur. Past 5 years, I've been from London. But in between, I'm from Cyprus as well, and now from New York. So, yeah, we're from a lot of places, aren't we? It's a bit confusing. And then our names, particularly as devotees, some of us, we use at least a couple of names within different contexts, within different circles. So you might relate to this complexity. Whereas in former times, people, they were basically from one place and they had one identity, one profession, one name. Everyone knew them by it. That's no longer really the case. Now it's much more complex for you and I. Now let's think about Krishna. Ask Krishna, who are you? What is your name? Where are you from? What answer might he give? If it's complicated for us, how complicated is it for Krishna? Today, we're actually going to discuss a story from the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, where one of the characters asks Krishna this very question, who are you? So how does Krishna respond to a question like that? We will find out in today's discussion. Once again, we're discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, and it's chapters 51, verses 1 through to 63. That's the full chapter. And chapter 52, verses 1 through to 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We will discuss three topics. 1. Krishna arranges for the killing of Kalyavana, verses 1 to 12 of the 51st chapter of the 10th canto. Topic 2, Krishna blesses Mucakunda, verses 13 to 63, concluding that chapter. And then topic 3, fleeing Jarasandha, verses 1 to 14 of the 52nd chapter. So we begin with the punishing, the killing of Kalyavana. If you remember from the last class, Mathura city had been surrounded by a Yavana king. Yavana means foreigner, barbarian. Sometimes it means, people from the area of the earth that today we refer to as Ionia or Turkey or Greece. So that's interesting. We have a character coming from another part of the world in this story. So he, the king, Kalyavana, he had surrounded Mathura. And so Krishna, he built a fortress in the sea, transferred all the residents of Mathura to that fortress, and then he left the city. That's where we completed chapter 50 of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So now at the beginning of chapter 51, Krishna, he's leaving Mathura, leaving the entrance to the city of Mathura. He doesn't have weapons in hand. He's just wearing a lotus garland. And Kalyavana sees him. He looks like the rising moon. And Kalyavana sees how effulgent and beautiful Krishna is. And he says, that's him. That's the person that Narada Muni described. And thus he knew that he was seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Kalyavana had been looking for a worthy opponent, and now that he sees Krishna, he thinks, yes, that's him. He is a worthy opponent. And seeing that Krishna had no weapons, Kalyavana, he has some chivalry. He also puts down his own weapons, and he runs towards Krishna. He tries to catch up with him. He wants to fight with Krishna. But Krishna is walking ahead, and as fast as Kalyavana runs, as much as he tries, Krishna is always just a few paces in front of him, just barely beyond Kalyavana's grasp at every step. And so Kalyavana follows him like this through a valley and into a mountain cave. As Kalyavana ran behind Krishna, he has been shouting different insults, but he's not able to catch Krishna. And Sukadev Goswami says it's because his stock of impious karma was not yet depleted. He was not qualified to catch Krishna. And so Krishna entered the cave, and Kalyavana followed behind him. And he saw, once you enter into a cave, you can't see initially, right? You're looking around, everything's dark. And as Kalyavana's eyes adjust to the light, he's trying to find Krishna. He sees somebody lying on the ground in the cave. And he thinks, there he is, trying to hide from me by lying down. And so he kicks that person that he sees lying on the floor of the cave. And it wasn't Krishna. It was a man who had been sleeping there for a very long time. And now suddenly he had been violently awakened. And he looked around angrily in all directions to see who had enacted this violent act. And seeing Kalyavana before him, he stared at him harshly, igniting fire within Kalyavana's body. And in that moment, Kalyavana was burned to ashes. And so we can pause here and reflect. We can think about this encounter between Krishna and Kalyavana. It teaches us some different things. One is that Krishna cannot be achieved by our own efforts alone. Kalyavana is very powerful, but he's unable to catch Krishna. So the way to catch Krishna is not by our own strength, by our own efforts alone. Rather, it's a path of humility and surrender, and a recognition that we need divine grace and blessings to be able to approach Krishna. Krishna is approached by those whom he chooses to allow to approach him. And so we make an effort to invoke his mercy. We make an effort to invoke that decision on his side that he will allow us to approach him. We need to have faith in that mercy, to undertake the sadhana to attract his attention. But it is up to him. It's not it's not something that we can become entitled to, that we can demand. I have paid the fee, now you ought to pay me. You must provide me a service. That may be the case with their worship. but not with Krishna, because the value of approaching Krishna is so great that we cannot afford the price. Therefore, we fully depend on mercy. Another nice thing is this, another nice reflection for us. Krishna, he's achieving many things by doing single things. By doing one thing, he achieves many purposes. So he wants to awaken Mucakunda. That is a blessing that he wants to give to Mucakunda. But Mucakunda, we will learn, he has a boon that he wants to sleep. And anyone who he looks upon, who awakens him, will be burned to ashes. And so Krishna will always respect that boon given by the demigods. So he arranges for a demon to wake Mucakunda up. A demon, anyway, that Krishna would kill because he's attacking Krishna. He's attacking Dvarka city. So anyway, Krishna is going to chastise him. And so he arranges for this demon to come and wake up Mucakunda and be killed by Muchakunda's glaring gaze, glaring effulgence. And then we'll see. There's some nice exchange between Krishna and Mucakunda as well. And so what the lesson for you and I is to accept that Krishna's wisdom transcends our limited perception. And our faith and devotion should allow us to embrace the complexity of Krishna's actions, his will. We should always be guided by the understanding that Krishna's intentions are ultimately for our highest good, and we surrender to that. Let's go to our second topic then. Blessing Mucakunda, the man who was lying there sleeping. Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, who is this man who was sleeping and then burned the Yavana king just by looking upon him? And so Sukadeva Goswami tells him, this extraordinary person was a son of a very ancient king, mentioned in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, Mandata. And his name was Mucakunda. He was very devoted to spiritual, Brahminical culture. He always kept his word. And previously, he had spent many, many long years helping to protect the demigods from the demons. He was that powerful that the demigods called upon him to help them in their fight against the demons. And his role was so important. He was like their commander-in-chief for the demigod armies. That was how significant his role was. Eventually, the demigods, they got another commander-in-chief. He's very famous. He's the son of Lord Shiva. His name, and he rides a peacock. His name is, yes, I'm pausing so you can fill in the blank here. His name is Kartikeya. Yeah, very good. Kartikeya. And so when the demigods got Kartikeya as their commander, they allowed Mucakunda to retire. And they offered him a boon. And they said, you can choose from us anything except liberation, because we can't give you liberation. Only Mukunda, Vishnu, can give liberation. You choose from us anything else. And so Mucakunda, he was very tired after fighting for the demigods over so many years. And so he asked for the benediction that he could be covered in sleep. And also that anyone who disturbed him would be burned to ashes, so people would know, don't disturb this man. Don't disturb this sleeping king. And since then, he had been lying in this cave. And it had in fact been many yugas that he had been lying in this cave. And so upon Kalyavana's being burned to ashes, Krishna showed himself to Mucakunda. Mucakunda was struck with wonder on seeing Krishna's incomparable beauty, and he asked Krishna who he was. That's the question that I mentioned at the beginning of this talk. We asked Krishna, who are you? Well, that's what Mucakunda asked. Who are you? Mucakunda also explained his own identity. He said, after growing weary, from remaining awake for a long time. I was enjoying my sleep here in this cave when a stranger disturbed me, and suffering the reactions of his sins, that person was burned to ashes. That's an interesting perspective. He says, "O vanquisher of enemies, it is my fortune that I now have a vision of your beautiful form." And so after Mucakunda had introduced himself, then Krishna, he introduced himself. He told Mucakunda who he was. He said, "My names and activities are unlimited." Which name do you want? They are unlimited. He said, these names and activities are constantly glorified by sages and devotees, but they are never able to reach the end of my glory. Excuse me. And so Krishna said, so to simplify things, maybe I'll just tell you about my current name and my current activities. He said that I have appeared on earth at the request of the demigods for the purpose of protecting the devotees and destroying the demons and establishing Dharma. And he said, currently I have appeared as the son of Vasudeva, and therefore people also call me Vasudeva. He said that he had come to deliver Mucakunda, as Mucakunda had previously prayed to him. And so now he was reciprocating with those prayers by appearing before Mucakunda in person. And so he said to Mucakunda, please ask from me any benediction, any boon that you wish. And so the wise Mucakunda, recognizing his Lord, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and understanding the futility of material life, he asked that he may be allowed to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna was very pleased with this request. And he said to Mucakunda, my devotees are never enticed by material benedictions offered to them. Only non-devotees, yogis, speculative philosophers are interested in material benedictions, having mundane desires in their hearts. So he said to Mucakunda, you will have perpetual devotion to me. He said, now always remaining surrendered to me, go to Badrikashram in the Himalayas and perform devotional service there to fully eradicate yourself of any vestiges of sinful reaction, particularly and crude through your role as a warrior in killing the enemy on the battlefield. And he said, in your next life, you will appear as a Vaishnava, as a devotee, and you will serve me and you will attain me. And thus, Krishna offered his blessings to Mucakunda. Mucakunda left his cave, and as he came upon the world again, he was surprised. Everything looked so small. All the trees had shrunk, all the people had shrunk, the animals were shrunk. Everything was miniature size as compared to what he was used to from, I believe it was Satya Yuga when he lived. Everything was much larger. And now he's seen this decline in everything, quality of everything, the size of everything, the virtue of everything. It had all declined, it had diminished through the passage of time. And whatever trace he had of material attachment, it was dissipated on seeing how everything had passed and diminished in that way. And so he journeyed to Badri, where he followed Krishna's instruction, engaged in devotional service, and perfected his life. One more life to go, Krishna had told him, and so he was ready for that. We can pause here and reflect some more. Surrender and devotion to Krishna. We can take a lesson from Mucakunda's prayer, teaching us the importance of surrender and devotion. Mucakunda had a choice of any boon he could have asked from Krishna, and he chose Let me take shelter of your lotus feet. And so it teaches us that the ultimate goal of life is not material gains or temporary pleasures which diminish with time, but rather deep and unshakable connection, yoga, loving connection with Krishna. Another important lesson for us is to think about Krishna's answer to Mucakunda's question, who are you? Which reveals to us that Krishna is infinite. His glory is infinite and beyond description. This serves as a reminder for us that Krishna is beyond our limited capabilities of comprehension. His manifestations, his pastimes, his name, his glory are without limit. And so we must acknowledge that the boundless and unfathomable nature of Krishna, rather than trying to fully understand him or limit him with human concepts or expectations. Rather, we must be humble and recognize Krishna's greatness and that it is beyond our grasp. Let's go to our third topic, and that is having discussed Krishna's infinite glory, now a wonderful paradox, and that is Krishna's fleeing the battlefield, fleeing Jarasandha. After delivering Mucakunda, Krishna returned to Mathura, which was still under siege from Kalyavana's army. Balaram defending the city. Krishna destroyed the army and collected all the valuables that the soldiers had been carrying on carts and wagons, and was preparing to leave to Dvaraka with that booty, with those treasures, the treasures of war. And just as he and Balaram were preparing to leave with this treasure, who should arrive but Jarasandha, now attacking for the 18th time with a force of 23 Akshohinis. You remember from an earlier class, that's a very big number of soldiers and chariots and horses and elephants and so forth. Balaram and Krishna, they acted as if fearful. They left the riches aside that they had collected in their chariots and wagons, and they ran far away. And Jarasandha, who was unable to appreciate Krishna's glory, ran after Krishna and Balaram. And after running for a long time, a long distance, Krishna and Balaram, they came to a mountain named Pravarshana. In New Zealand, our community is called Varshana. Varshana refers to rain, actually. Varshana, it's Radharani's birthplace, but it is also a Varshana, is a place of pleasant rainfall. This mountain is called Pravarshana. It's exceptionally, there is exceptional rainfall there. That happens. The clouds, they pass over the fields, the plains, and they assemble over the mountain peaks, and then shed their water over the mountains. We saw that living at New Govardhan. The mountains like to hover. Sorry, the clouds like to hover over the mountain tops. And so this is Pravarshana, a place of plentiful rain. And so Balaram and Krishna, they ascended that mountain. And Jarasandha, he thought that they had hidden themselves in a cave. And so he looked over. He looked all across the mountain. He sent his soldiers scouting the mountain, trying to find them. And they were unable. And so what he did was, he had his soldiers light fires at the base of this mountain on all sides. And that fire whipped up and started to engulf the entire mountain. Even though it's Pravarshana, we would expect it to be wet, but still, it burns. And the flames, they start licking the mountainside. And what did Krishna and Balaram do? They went to the peak of that mountain and jumped. They jumped down from the top of the mountain over the fires that were burning, that were raging, and reaching the ground unseen by Jarasandha and his followers, they returned to Dwaraka fort, which was within the sea. Jarasandha, thinking that Krishna and Balaram had burned to death in the fire, he took his army and returned to his kingdom of Magadha. Wow, what intrigue. So we can pause and reflect here. Krishna's actions, even though they appear unconventional, against the warrior code in this instance, but they are gloriously purposeful and transcendental. Krishna's decision to retreat from the battlefield contrasts with what might be perceived as chivalrous. Rather, it would be considered shameful for a kshatriya to flee the battlefield. But Krishna, he's known as Ranchor. Ranchor means he who fled the battle. In fact, devotees celebrate this name. They celebrate this pastime of Krishna running away from the battlefield. In Gujarat, there is a temple for Ranchor Rai. You can visit it to this day. It's quite wonderful. A very old deity of Ranchor Rai. And very fitting to the name, this temple is in fact shaped a little bit like a mosque. Why? Because when the Muslims were invading and attacking the local people, they made the temple look like a mosque, disguised their temple to look like a mosque. So yeah, very much the deity was already named Ranchor, but then here we are. His temple is also in disguise, a little bit like a mosque, so as to deceive the attacking armies of the Muslim invaders to India. So that's quite wonderful, isn't it? So you can have darshan of Ranchor Rai. I had his darshan maybe 20 years ago when I was visiting Vadodara. So about 3 or 4 hours drive from Vadodara. Is Ranchor Rai's temple. This pastime teaches us that Krishna's decisions, his activities always serve a higher transcendental purpose. In this instance, Krishna's fleeing the battlefield, it wasn't about weakness, but rather a manifestation of his love for his devotee, Rukmini. He knew that Rukmini wanted to connect with him. And so he wanted to be there to participate in that pastime with Rukmini. And so he left the battlefield, returned to Dvaraka. And so the lesson for you and I is to trust Krishna's divine wisdom and recognize that everything he does, including whatever happens in our lives, is his mercy. Even when it appears difficult to understand, we should have that trust and faith that this is Krishna's mercy. Okay, well, let's conclude with a summary in the form of a prayer. Beloved Krishna, in your divine pastime with Kalyavana, we witness the profound lessons you impart to us, lessons that resonate with the wisdom of surrender and the symphony of your multifaceted grace. Kalyavana's futile pursuit of you, Krishna, serves as a reminder that the path to your divine grace, to your divine embrace, is not merely built on our earthly deeds, but on the bedrock of humility and surrender. Your blessings are not earned, they are a gracious choice, bestowed upon those who approach you with unwavering devotion. You entrust our very souls to your, we entrust our very souls to your infinite mercy, knowing that within your grace we discover our true sanctuary. The demise of Kalyavana through Mucakunda's fiery gaze unveils your mystery of orchestrating actions that transcend the boundaries of human comprehension. You, dear Krishna, are not confined by mortal conventions. Your actions are an intricate tapestry woven from the threads of divine purpose. In this, we find the invitation to embrace the complexity of your divine intentions, to surrender to the mysteries of your plan, recognizing that each step you take holds a higher purpose. Mucakunda's heartfelt plea for devotion teaches us that while the material world may dazzle with transient treasures, the ultimate purpose of life is found solely in you. True fulfillment and liberation are born from the unbreakable connection with you. Your divine love is the refuge we seek, where material gains pale in comparison to the eternal richness of spiritual connection. Your identity and actions, Krishna, are boundless and unfathomable to the human mind. Here we find humility, acknowledging the vastness of your greatness. We shift our gaze from seeking to fully understand to the profound act of love and surrender. Within your infinite being, we discover eternal sanctuary. Your retreat from the battlefield, celebrated as Ranchora, embodies the multifaceted nature of your divine wisdom. It is not an act of weakness, but a manifestation of profound compassion and care for your devoted ones. Your retreat is a testament to your boundless love, a reminder that your plan is driven by a higher purpose and a love that extends beyond our comprehension. Your wisdom, dear Krishna, is a river that flows eternally, carrying the essence of surrender, transcendence, and devotion. As we journey through life's intricate dance, we aspire to become vessels of your divine grace, embracing the complexity of your divine plan. We surrender to your wisdom, even when it appears beyond our grasp. In each step, in every lesson, in all our retreats, we humbly recognize your boundless mercy and offer our hearts in devotion to your divine lotus feet. Let me acknowledge some of you who joined after I started speaking. And in the meantime, if any of you have any reflections, comments, questions you would like to share, don't be shy. So this is Kati Ramaya says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Kati. Maybe you can tell me where you're joining us from. Here we have Gordy Das joining us from Ukraine. He says, Hare Krishna. And there's something else there that I can't read. No, there my ability to read Cyrillic has met its limits. So Gordy Das, thank you for joining, for reminding us of devotees struggling under very difficult circumstances in Ukraine. Our prayers are with them. Our hearts are with them. We ask you, devotees, to please bless them, living, serving in very, very difficult conditions. Please keep those devotees in your prayers. And all the people of Ukraine and the world right now, there is so much struggle, so much pain. Let's see. So that's Gauri Tai Das. Let me put Gauri Tai's comment there. Now you can all see. Gauri Tai Das. Hare Krishna. Maybe he says Prabhu. That could be the last word there. All right. And then we have Sevadevi. Sevadevi says, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees. Thank you, Sevadevi. Thank you for joining us from Sydney, Australia. And I'm guessing also with Sevapuri. Monica Sharma is with us from Sydney, Australia. Monica says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Monica Sharma. Thank you for joining us. Gaurachandraji joining us from New Zealand. Says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavats. Greetings to you. Gaurachandraji. Chanavamata joining us from Dunedin says, Krishna's greatness is beyond our grasp. I love that. Indeed it is. Yeah, thank you for highlighting that point. Beyond our grasp. Sometimes when I will see a little ant, and then I think, what does that ant know about this building? What does that ant know about the people in the building, or where the things, all the things that are present in a room, what functions they perform? The ant has a very limited view of what's going on. They might know more about, what's between the floorboards or the little ant trail, their ant's nest, where the sugar is. But those bigger questions, it's just beyond their comprehension. And so I think about us as mere ants on this earth, what to speak of the universe, what to speak of the multiverse, what to speak of the material nature and beyond the material nature. The material nature is only 1/4 of the total existence. 3/4 is the spiritual nature. So yeah, what can we comprehend? What can we know? Thanks, Janavamata. Krishangi is with us from Sydney. Krishangi says, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishangi. As always, Kirtida says, mercy without cause. Very beautiful. Thank you, Kirtida. So that is the meaning of mercy. It means that it is causeless. Otherwise it becomes an entitlement. Bhakti itself is causeless. Ahetuki is the Sanskrit word that Sukadeva Goswami uses. Hetu means cause. Ahetu means without cause. Bhakti is without cause. Why? Because it is mercy. It is given as grace. Who is that grace given to? Essentially, anyone who requests it, who says, I would sincerely like to have that. Despite my lack of qualifications, I beg for this grace. Who gets that idea? That idea is something that we get from the devotees. So by association with devotees, then the Bhakti Sukriti is awakened. And then when we act on that, there's something that awakens in our heart and we say, Krishna Tomarahana, Krishna, I am yours. By the mercy of Vaishnavas, we come to say this, Krishna, I am yours. When we say that, then our material existence is over. We are then, after saying that, we are under Krishna's protection. We are under Krishna's charge. He counts us as his devotees. And so a different logic applies. It's the logic of mercy rather than karma. Whatever happens in our life, we say, this is Krishna's mercy. Karma ceases to function with that calculated cause and effect relationship. No, now the effects are much greater than the cause. We are receiving grace, and it's so much greater than what we deserve or what we are entitled to or have earned. And then the things that we struggle with, we say, oh, that's just a small reminder of the negative karma that I should have experienced, but it has been reduced by Krishna just to give me a reminder so that I can stay steady on the path of bhakti. Yeah, thank you for that, Kirtida. Janavamata says, thank you as always for sharing these great transcendental treasures. Loved your prayer. So many valuable lessons. Questions, plural. Sometimes it's easy to see the Lord's hands in our lives and sometimes it's not. What makes the difference? Why is that so? Why is that? Why is that so? Yeah, okay. Sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. But He's always there. Sometimes we are sleeping, sometimes we are awake. As long as we are conditioned souls, then, or aspiring devotees that are sleeping, waking, it fluctuates. As long as we don't know about Krishna, then we are sleeping. Even if we're walking, talking, eating, and doing so many other things, it is like a daydream. And by the mercy of Vaishnavas, we receive the seed of bhakti, and we wake up. But as aspiring devotees, then our waking is still a little, it is not full, and we might fall asleep again, or we might doze off again and see things from a material perspective. And so that is there, as we've been in the material world since time immemorial, Srila Prabhupada said. And so that we doze off from time to time shouldn't be surprising. We must continue on the path with faith and invoking as at every possible opportunity the further blessings and grace of Krishna and his devotees. And then our deliverance will be faster. Otherwise, it will be there. Just that we start on the path of bhakti, that we have received the mercy of Vaishnavas, then in a sense, then our spiritual progression and upliftment is assured. The power of bhakti is so great that just chanting the holy name, seeing the deity, being in the dham, doing some seva for Vaishnavas, it will have an effect. The question is how quickly. Will it take a long time or will it happen very fast, very quickly? And part of the determining factor of that is how committed and sincere we are. Are we going to take these practices seriously? How are we going to engage in them attentively? How are we going to continue to pray and aspire for Krishna's mercy, for the mercy of Vaishnavas? Or will we become complacent and take things for granted? And then if the latter, then our progress will be slower. We can get distracted along the way. We'll go through the heavenly planets or maybe on Earth, some heavenly situations before reaching our ultimate goal of serving Krishna in eternal Goloka Vrindavan. So Janavamata says also here that she says, it seems that the immaterial modes of nature play a role in this process of remembrance. And that is a good insight, and it is confirmed by Kapila Dev in the third canto Srimad Bhagavatam. In his teachings to Devahuti, Kapila Dev describes how bhakti can also be expressed by us according to our coverings in the modes of material nature. So our bhakti can be mixed or textured, even though bhakti is pure, but we are conditioned. And so when we practice bhakti, when we chant, when we serve, it may be expressed with some tamas or some rajas or in sattva. And so that is there. That is a fact. And so therefore we make an effort in devotional service to practice from the platform of the mode of goodness, because it is very conducive to pure bhakti. Even the mode of goodness, that is a material mode, but it is the purest of the modes of nature, and it is purifying. And so, like that saying, cleanliness is next to godliness, or Prabhupada said, cleanliness is godliness. Cleanliness is not bhakti, it is not Krishna as such, but it is close. It is favorable to bhakti. We can say that. It is favorable to the practice of pure bhakti, and so it is helpful. Therefore, we also refer to this as Brahminical culture, because Brahminical culture, Brahmanas, they're in the mode of goodness. Brahminical culture is a sattvic culture, and it is favorable to the practice of bhakti. And our instruction is, by Rupa Goswami, tat tat karma pavartanat. Accept whatever is favorable to bhakti, reject whatever is unfavorable. Sattva-guna is favorable, then we adopt that as much as possible as a platform. We try to be clean, truthful, non-violent, disciplined, compassionate. These are all sattvic qualities that are favorable to the practice of bhakti. And if we're practicing bhakti with ambition, with a sense of competition, with a desire for fame and prestige and reputation and followers, that would be a rajasic practice of bhakti. And if we're practicing bhakti because of fear and anxiety, and we're afraid of hell, we're afraid of punishment by Yamadutas, we're afraid of God, we're afraid of sin, we're afraid of, or we've been suffering in life and we want God to liberate us and help us. And so if we're practicing in that way, then that would be a tamasic expression of bhakti. So tamasic fear, generally rajasic is greed. Sattvic, sattva is characterized by satisfaction and purity and selflessness. So that is favorable for pure bhakti, Suddha Sattva. Good questions, as always. Thank you, Janava Mata. I thank you all for being here, for this opportunity to associate with you and serve you. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be happy. May you have loving dealings with devotees. May you deepen your attachment to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and remembering Srimad Bhagavatam and seeing the world through the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam. May you deepen your taste for chanting the holy name. May you chant Krishna's name with attention. When your mind wanders, bring it back to hear the sound of the holy name. May you deepen your appreciation for serving the deity, for serving the Dham, and for serving Vaishnavas at every opportunity. And may your heart be moved by these practices to, with compassionately share these treasures of bhakti with others as well. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktarinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hariva.